What's up guys, it's Daz here, but you don't really care, as I'm a little late to the party of Persona 5, but hey, I'm doing trailer analyses again. And the advantage of doing these videos like a few weeks later is that I can overview the findings of other analysts and hopefully make one super video with no holes in it. Because I noticed a lot of people mention different things, but I don't think anyone said everything in their video, if that makes sense. And just as a disclaimer, my knowledge on the Persona games is a little limited, but I'm actively going through the game, so do correct me kindly if I make mistakes in the future. So far I've done all of Persona 4 and gone a little into Persona 3. I'll get to the rest eventually. Anyway, with that, let's get into the trailer. So right off the bat we get to see the location that Persona 5 takes place in, the city. More specifically, it's said to be in Shibuya, which is a real location in Tokyo. But we'll see more of that later on. Also, is this helicopter important at all? Is it assisting our characters in the thieving they're about to do or something? So here we see some kind of casino filled with people, even though no one's actually using the machines plotted around. Next, what look to be some kind of secret agents on the lookout for someone. Who? This guy. He's our main protagonist. If he's even good. The text says, "What's waiting for you? Glory?" Quick shot of our guy looking mischievous. Or destruction. This idea originally reminded me of Catherine, another recent game of Atlus, and how your actions would have consequences of how the story would progress. Of course, in this case it would be a matter of if you succeed this mission or not. Or it could be one of those generic will you succeed or fail phrases thrown in video game adverts. Still, if you can fail the mission, maybe this is a consequence. Alarm bells, you have to escape, even fabulously, and then you're caught. What on earth happens next anyway? You're caught. Game over, right? Nice. Now the funky music starts, but first let me point out the sky. It be red. This is because the last 3 Persona games all have a corresponding colour to it. Persona 3 had blue, Persona 4 had yellow, and now Persona 5 has red. And we'll be seeing that colour throughout the trailer. In fact, we already saw it on the guy's gloves just a moment ago. And here we see the main character, who by the way is often referred to as the Phantom. Jump through the air. Next we see another character who turns out to be Anne Takamaki, a blonde girl who we'll see more of later in the trailer, who joins the Phantom in his heists. She's recognisable through her distinctive hairstyle. Up here we see yet another character, but this one's a little odd. The fact they have a tail may make one assume they are an animal in some human form, and later we'll see a cat named Morgana who can shapeshift. However, it's significant to note that the tail doesn't match, so perhaps this is subtly foreshadowing another animal-like character of some kind? Still, Morgana could have a human form, but I don't think we've seen it yet. And finally we see our guy friend, Ryuji Sakamoto, with his shorter hair and skull mask. This section is basically just glorified dancing material. But this bit's important. It's the Velvet Room, and right at the start we see the whole place is behind bars, linking to the criminal affair we've got going on. Not to mention our new replacements for Elizabeth, Margaret and Theodore. They appear to be twins this time around, though they do look slightly different. They each wear an eye patch, however the one on the left has it on their left eye and the one on the right, their right eye. Their hairstyles are also slightly different, with one having a long braid and the other a bun. Furthermore, they're dressed like prison guards, so not only do they link to the prison idea, but we will see later on something else that links them to the main character and his symbolism. Next, this bit here shows Hachiko Square, another famous location in Tokyo, and is actually where the scene happens in the teaser trailer. But I'll come to that later. For now, we see the main character dive down to the center of the area and explode with black and grey colours into a gentleman stalk? Well actually, this is confirmed to be the protagonist's persona, Arsene. We can see a couple of concept arts of this persona, and here we can see more clearly that it features long sharp claws, a helmet and a hat looking more like a top hat in the actual trailer, as well as a high collared suit of some kind featuring hearts on one shoulder. Looking back at the trailer, we can also see it has some heels to its boots. Or you could just look at this and you pretty much see everything. Now it seems that Arsene is based off of the fictional character Arsène Lupin, who was a gentleman thief and master of disguise created by French writer Maurice Leblanc. Sounds very fitting for our main character, a gentlemanly master of disguise himself. But let's move on to more of the trailer. Oh wait, no, hold on! Did you see that last bit there? For a brief moment, looking frame by frame, we see a long chain protrude from the bottom of the screen and attach to Arsene. From this, we can assume that Arsene is literally chained to the protagonist. Not to mention, we see this chain in the concept art showing them both. This image here shows Arsene being used in battle, also shows the chains connecting the two. Okay, now we can move on. That's Morgana. And now we see actual in-game footage. The date is April 11th, which coincidentally is day 1 in Persona 4 and possibly Persona 2? However, we know this is not the case for this game, as we can see an image showing April 7th as the date when the main character is at the train station again, though this is still probably very early game. Finally, on the note of the date, the Persona games are always set in a specific year and stick to continuity when it comes to the days of the week, so since it's Monday on April 11th, we can predict that this game takes place in 2016. Which makes sense. Also in the top left hand corner we can see an icon for the cloud, meaning that weather will probably be an important factor in the game. Now looking at the behaviour of the protagonist himself, we can see he is acting very shyly by the way he's clutching his bag and trying not to draw any attention. He is the master of disguise after all. This idea of him being much less dynamic can also be seen by how easily he gets crushed against the window of the train. Clearly he's just good at sticking to the character. But why is he slamming into the window? Sure, people push him, but why? Well, we can see a train rushes past this one as the collision happens, but surely people are used to that. Plus, if we saw the main character at the train station on April 7th, he would be prepared for this event, so then something must be abnormal here. Oh, and in case you were wondering, the Japanese symbols that appear briefly on screen are said to be onomatopoeia for the sounds of the train as it brushes along its journey. Same day, we see our main guy walking through Shibuya Station. Again, another real-world location of Tokyo, though it's not entirely clear if this moment occurs before or after the train scene. But look at all these people! Amazing! Sure, you're not interacting with them, but it's still really cool. But more importantly, look closer at the protagonist. We can vaguely see Morgana the cat poking her little head out of the back of his bag. This suggests that Morgana is in fact his cat and will likely be living with him. Or decided to join him and our guy is forced to babysit or something. Cat sit? Again, the Japanese symbols are presumably onomatopoeia. Up next, we're in the classroom, and if you wanted a more precise time, it's apparently 10:05 in the morning. And now let's play a game of Spot the Main Character. Ding! Hooray! Although our guy doesn't stand out that much aside from his glasses and his slouchiness. Speaking of which, the teacher doesn't like that, so BAM! Bullseye! That's actually a pun when you realise the game has a theme around eyes, but like many other things, we'll come to that later. What I really like about this scene is the attention to detail when watching the other students realise what's going on and reacting in different manners to the events going on. People act shocked, some duck, some flinch, and a handful turn to look at the results. Not so good at not drawing attention now, are we? Here we see the characters outside and it's finally sunny. And it seems as though we've got an update on the general look of the game and not just in graphics. We no longer have those body shots of characters as they talk anymore. Instead, we have this. Ripped out comic strips. I like it. Plus, they threw in a little red background. Couldn't help it, of course. And not only do we see the main character Ryuji and Anne, but also Morgana, who is actually in her cat form. And now that we have a good shot of the characters, I'd like to point out something. Look at how much they stand out. Ryuji has a bright yellow t-shirt, and Anne has red leggings. Color-wise, they're trying to stand out. Compare that to every background character. They're all in monochromatic suits with often slouched backs and no significant facial features. Seriously, you can see it clearly in this scene and even looking back to the train. No one has eyes. This all links to the main overarching philosophy behind the game and its story. The main idea is the idea of freedom in modern day society. In a time like this, characters are restrained, chained down if you will, becoming bored or discontent with their lives. Look at everyone else. They got a job, they're a businessman. But they're not happy. They're just living their life exactly how society wants them to. They're not unique, they don't stand out. They're just another pawn in life with no outstanding features. And the main characters are exactly against that. They want broad colours to stand out. They're willing to go onto some elaborate thieving mission in order to fight against these rules. And in real life, many people do the same. Committing crimes for the sole reason of being different, going against the rules. Anyway, going on to the next scene, we see the characters in a bar of some sort. Actually, I see no alcoholic beverages here, so perhaps it's a cafe? And the group seem to be used to this scenario, so I'm doubtful they only just met today. I mean, Ryuji is literally lying back reading some manga, yet Morgana has morphed into her mascot form. Side note, some have speculated that Morgana remains in her cat form during the day and only becomes mascotty when at night. Now on top of that, they seem to be planning a heist. They have a layout of their target building open across the table, along with pictures of specific people. And it becomes the focus of conversation as the main character points to a specific spot, probably their entrance point. And the others moving closer. Also, look at Morgana's eyes. Blue. Remember that. Suddenly, transition! The Phantom jumps down, similar to how he would enter his target location and flies away. I expect in this scenario his hands are white, when they'd otherwise be red just to contrast the black. Back to the stylized scene again, and we can see right close to the camera the main character has red buttons on both his torso and on the end of his sleeves. But here's something that tripped me up. His eyes. They're red. What? Is this just to fit in with the redness of this scene with the red sky and all? Is this a continuity error because this is still early game, so the different animators were maybe misinformed? Or is this supposed to be symbolic of their character? Black eyes meaning subtle, ordinary personality, and red eyes meaning more devious, thieving personality. Either way, we'll be seeing more eye coloring continuity. Just wait. Oh my god! That's his shirt. But here we see Ryuji is just having a fun time. Clearly showing the concept of going against an ordinary, unfulfilling life. He stands out with his blonde hair and bright red shirt and he's happy. But look at those eyes again. Yellow to match his hair. Alright. Now let's look at earlier on and now they're red. Huh. Is that just to match with the red background again or something? I mean, I guess if this is not the case, then red doesn't equal devious personality? At least not from Ryuji. I spot more red. Here's Anne with red leggings and fingernails, and guess what I'm gonna say? Her eyes match her hair, but whoopsie, once again, previously we saw them as blue. Very clearly blue too, unless my colour blindness has reached a new level of misinterpretation. Also, her hair colour is slightly different. Still blonde, but less brightly blonde. Back to the new scene and it's raining. Not sure if this is relevant, but I'll point it out. Here we see Morgana in her cat form with red eyes and a red collar, and she literally transforms into her mascot form on screen pretty much. Once again, red eyes here, yet blue eyes beforehand. Huh? And then we briefly see 9 Latin words pop on screen, 7 of which being the deadly sins. Invidia is envy, luxuria is lust, superbia is pride, assedia is sloth, avaricia is greed, gula is gluttony, ira is wrath. And then we have these 2 extra Latin words, cavum, meaning hollow, and irritu, nothingness, worthlessness, vanity, something like that. Exactly how these link to the game is unclear, but some have speculated they correspond to each character's. If they're all playable, then that's a lot to handle, and probably unlikely. Maybe it's just all the characters you have social links with. Right after all the words are gone, we see 2 long columns of luxuria, 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 luxuria. Morgana herself also seems to become fragmented. Then they throw a bunch of persona at you too. Then we see Morgana being boxed up with the caption Luxuria and Persona, so perhaps she's the one to reflect lust? As the box underneath opens up and we zoom out, we can see that there are 9 Morgana boxes, each with their own Latin word corresponding with them. Furthermore, we can see that the little boxes have become little loading screens, almost like battery meters. And they're at different lengths, so is this symbolic of something? Like the length determines how early the character with said Latin word will appear in the game? Or alternatively, how long you have before you meet them? Interestingly, we can also see that 7 of the Morganas seem pretty ordinary and identical, whereas the one in the top right and bottom left corner are facing right, with the top right one even looking more significantly fragmented than the others. What does this mean? Back to gameplay and whoa! Welcome to the menus, some of the best I've ever seen. Super stylized and just really appealing. Pretty self-explanatory, however some were confused about the lack of the social links option, but that probably falls under cooperation. What isn't so clear is the don't look at me like that and the number count, but I wouldn't know what to tell you about that. Red hand is always there. Then we see the menu animation for the next option, which is so cool! The main character switches from an outstretched hand to a gun pose. Here's where we can extract some info if we had it translated. Ah! So now we see the names of our characters, although they've already been mentioned in this video. Main character hasn't been given an official name yet though, so I'll stick with the usual, and the Phantom. Then we have Sakamoto Ryuji, Morgana, and Takamaki Anne. Other things we can take from this shot is that we have a separate slot for guns and weapons, so each character wields a gun of some kind, or at least a ranged and melee weapon. We also have separate protectors, that's probably armor, and clothes, so we can dress however we want and not have to worry about it affecting our stats anymore. From this we can see the Phantom prefers handguns and knives. Yeah, fling that bullet. Going on to anime cutscenes and we can see the train driver has become possessed somewhat. Those eyes. And a train crash is caused by this. Was this train the one that flew past the protagonist earlier and so was foreshadowed this morning? Now it's evening and the Phantom is jumping into some kind of castle-like area. Notice how he flies in from above like he entered through a window? He also lands with splashes of blood and red ink. This happens more with each step he takes. Interesting. And for the longest time, I was thinking that this room is the same as the casino we saw earlier, minus the machines, but I'm doubtful now, though this may be the room that was pointed at previously. As the Phantom runs, we see knights guarding the place, and their masks suggest they are shadows disguised in a relevant design to the area. Is the golden one on the left especially strong or rare? And now we're up in the chandeliers. The gameplay's gone a lot more fresh than walking down randomly generated hallways. In fact, perhaps most of this place is just done in one loading screen. So instead of going upstairs to a new level, you simply have to climb the building by reaching certain points like chandeliers. I'm sure the PlayStation 3 and 4 can handle these large areas if that is the case. Next we see the Phantom with some kind of sneaking mechanic. He can leap from cover to cover, splattering a little ink onto the camera, to sneak up towards an enemy. Maybe this is all used to ensure an advantage over the enemy? Also, notice how he is all alone here, so maybe he's scouting the area? All the other characters have entered somewhere else and you need to meet up within the place before working together. Back to the dorkier version of the main character, and here's another menu at the health clinic. We briefly see Takemi Tai, that's the person there, sitting in her chair before she pops into this blue and white menu full of DNA patterns. Then as you go further into the menu, she switches positions into a more laid back position with a clipboard. And here you can buy your items as you'd expect. Some are new, others are returning from the other games. Here's a short cutscene showing the three characters, and I expect this moment accurately represents their personalities. And now we see the four characters escaping from their heist. Interestingly, they all have their masks off, and presumably things are not going according to plan as the whole place is falling apart and the crew look quite shocked. Morgana's here too, but she's in her cat form for some reason. Here's another menu for your equipment with Munehise Iwai. Feet up, lollipop in mouth, then geckos. I don't know either. But we do get to see once again the names of the characters on each of the name tags, though it is unclear exactly what the Joker means. The fool underneath is often the arcana associated with the main characters of the Persona games, but this is new. Is it integrating the other card pack, like the 52 pack of hearts, spades, clubs, and diamonds? Or is this supposed to be something else? A trait of the character at this point? Like low charisma makes you a Joker? I have no idea. What I do know is the guy is now leaning forward with his lollipop in his hand. Not that that's very relevant. Sudden shot to the main character, and look where we are! The Velvet Room! And the MC is in a prison cell. You are a slave. Want emancipation? But we can also see the twins in this shot. Their eye patches are more clear now, but they are clearly guarding the cell. Perhaps you have to progress through the game and create social links in order to free yourself in the Velvet Room, and thus symbolically? Also, for the longest time, I thought the main character was literally chained to each of the twins, as it sort of looks like two chains make an X formation and connect to each twin. But they could stop at the door, I can't entirely tell. Symbolically though, that could work. Now that we're closer, here's another thing I want to point out. Am I the only one seeing him as having a split personality here? Look at his eyes! Isn't the one on the left more open and surprised, whilst the one on the right more closed and perhaps frustrated? Would be fitting for the disguise he's got going on, but I haven't seen others mention it, so maybe I'm looking at this wrong. He also looks strikingly similar to Vincent from the game Catherine. I might name him that when I get to playing the game. Back to gameplay, and we're in battle. The Phantom drops down from above, but look at the stats in the corner. First of all, the MC is holding his information like it's a mugshot. Nice. But also, the other characters haven't appeared yet. They join the MC moments later in the sort of inky transition effect we saw earlier. Before that, we also see some kind of placeholder icon which doesn't look like any specific character until after the transition. Then it becomes Anne. Here's the Phantom again with his red gloves, mask and gun. But what are they fighting? Those aren't shadows, those are personas! Pyrojack and Sandman. But in the past two games, we fought with them, not against them. That has led people to believe these are demons, and they are messing with the real world, causing things like possession and train crashes. Demons were a thing in the older games. And what we're seeing here is an all-out attack. Each character does some kind of action which then goes in slow motion and turns black and white. Anne has a red Catwoman-esque suit and pink gloves? Ryuji has his skull mask, red shirt and green gloves. And Morgana is in black and white, but we know it's black. This series of shots also shows the character's weapons of choice. We know the Phantom likes handguns and knives, but Ryuji likes shotguns and blunt weapons, Anne likes whips and submachine guns, and Morgana has slingshot and swords. Red screen, screen cracks, black silhouette. And here's the comic strip effect we always see in all-out attacks, though more stylized. Once again, Ryuji's eye color seems to have changed, and Morgana has that devious flashing thing going on with her eyes. And we're back to dancing along the road. Stop right there! Now the main character has yellow eyes? Make up your mind! Unless this is his shadow. After all, in Persona 4, characters had to face their shadows with a similar effect on their eyes. Also, there's blood dripping from his eyes. It fades away from the blue fire though and briefly creates an evil face. The fire grows and... But that's not all there is to say. First of all, the evil face is the one on Arsene, the MC's persona, so perhaps after defeating his shadow, Arsene is unlocked. But then, where is the real guy? Well, we've already seen this scene from a different angle. The end of the teaser trailer. Take a look. Crowd freezes, main guy confused, in the reflection of his glasses, the same fire effect. And he's not surprised. Perhaps they were looking for their shadow and now they found each other? I don't know. But I do know that I've done more than enough talking for today, so if you'd like to see more coverage of Persona 5 in the future, do tell me. For now, my name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.